Lombardi Morning Scramble. What's up, everybody? It's Wednesday. New league year starts today at 4 p.m. Eastern. That means 1 p.m. Pacific. What that means is that the contracts that have been agreed to over the course of this tampering period, Monday, Tuesday, and this Wednesday morning, they can become official starting at 1 o'clock Pacific. It also means that teams must be under the salary cap compliant by that 1 p.m. time. The 49ers currently are cap compliant, thanks in large part to some restructures. Fred Warner redid his deal last night. So the 49ers have about $9.5 million of room as free agency continues. That's some good spending money, but there are expenses on the horizon. And I will be talking about following the money to chart out the 49ers plan. I think if we look at this intelligently, we can chart out how they're going to approach, not just today, not just this week, but the next few months. We've already gotten plenty of clues. Talk about that in a little bit. First, why don't we get to the big news of the morning? Baker Mayfield just signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Albert Breer reports that it's worth $4 million in base compensation and up to $8.5 million with incentives for Baker Mayfield, which actually makes his deal smaller than this guy's. Sam Darnold for the 49ers, $4.5 million versus only $4 million for Baker Mayfield, and up to $11.5 million with incentives. On the surface, I think this is fair. It makes sense. After all, both Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold were quarterbacks for the same team in Carolina last year, and Darnold was the better QB for that same team. I think that Darnold is viewed as a QB with more upside than Baker Mayfield, more of a physical skill set for sure. But the contract is interesting because everybody's talking about Mayfield as Tom Brady's successor in Tampa Bay, whereas a lot of people are just kind of shrugging off Darnold as, third quarterback for the 49ers is going to be cut before the season begins, where the money really indicates that a lot more is possible for Sam Darnold in San Francisco. I already went over this yesterday. I can concisely say it again, but $7 million in playoff-based incentives, wins-based incentives, and passer rating-based incentives. That's something that Sam Darnold wouldn't have signed up for if he didn't believe there was a chance he could earn it, if he could earn those incentives. And the 49ers quarterback situation, I think it's obvious to the casual fan, if you look at this objectively, there's a lot of uncertainty in that room between Brock Purdy's torn up elbow, Trey Lance's inexperience, and also the fact that Trey Lance is coming off an ankle surgery. You look at those two things, Sam Darnold's got some room to make noise, and the 49ers want that quarterback option power. So to me, it's not surprising that he is making more than somebody like Baker Mayfield. And also, Nick Mullins just signed 2 years, $4 million with Minnesota. If the 49ers were just looking for a placeholder quarterback as that third quarterback, they would have signed somebody like Nick Mullins. They would have gone budget veteran, if you want to take a word out of our Build Your Roster 49ers spreadsheet that you can still sign up for. They didn't go budget veteran. They went more expensive veteran, but still affordable at $3.9 million with the cap hit for Sam Darnold, and a deal that's expandable to $11.5 million that they would pay later. They'd pay next year if Darnold met his incentives. But those incentives are there for a reason, and that is because they are technically attainable for Sam Darnold. Not saying that he will attain them. They're classified as not likely to be earned, which is just a contract classification. But I think that it's fair to say they are not likely to be earned, but there's a chance, and we know that Kyle Shanahan likes Darnold. So this quarterback stuff, to me, is fascinating. Philadelphia, they're losing more talent. Darius Slay, their best cornerback, they're going to cut him. And, we could look at Darius Slay's contract details here to understand what the hell is going on. But supposedly Slay wanted a 3-year, fully guaranteed extension, and the Eagles said, "You're 32 years old. We're not into that." And he thought that he had some leverage because they have all these void years on his contract that will accelerate and hit the cap sooner if they do cut him. And he's got a $17 million cap hit this year. But the Eagles said, you know what? We could pick up some cap space if we release you with a post-June 1st designation, which splits the dead money hit to future years. So if they do follow through with this move, as they're expected to do, the post-June 1st designation would give the Eagles $17.5 million in cap savings this season and $8.6 million in dead money this season. You'd spread out the dead money hit with the post-June 1st designation between 2023 and 2024. Now, the money won't become available for Philadelphia until after June 1st with that post-June 1st designation. So they obviously value the money here, the savings that they can get more than the player. They want to move off of him sooner rather than later. 32 years old. If you remember Deebo Samuel after the Super Bowl or before the Super Bowl saying he thinks that Bradbury is trash, but Slay is nice. Well, the Eagles brought back James Bradbury, who committed the holding penalty on Juju Smith-Schuster in the Super Bowl, but they're not going to be bringing back Darius Slay. They've lost 5 defensive starters, including linebacker TJ Edwards, and maybe the straw that stirred the drink in Javon Hargrave, their defensive tackle, one of the best pass rushing interior defensive linemen in the league. And of course, Philly's loss with Javon Hargrave has been the 49ers' gain since the 49ers picked up Hargrave. So I talk about arms race at the top of the NFC. I think what's happening is fascinating because both the Eagles and 49ers have been losing some talent, but I think the 49ers have been losing expected players. They've been losing some B-listers that they're going to try to replenish through the rest of free agency and the draft, whereas the Eagles are losing true A-listers. And I guess you can say they expected to lose Hargrave, but this Eagles team, in my opinion, is going to have a lot tougher time replenishing what they've lost because, Slay was an A-lister. Hargrave was an A-lister. We'll see what happens with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. But, I mean, this Philadelphia Eagles team is going to look different on the defensive side of the ball next season than the one that won the NFC Championship this past year. Meanwhile, the 49ers, obviously, trying to compete with Philadelphia, trying to win that NFC Championship in their own right next season. Well, they've lost some guys who I consider B-listers, but they're making sure that the A-list is fortified, and Javon Hargrave is yet another A-lister for the 49ers. It's going to be about building the rest of this team through budget free agency and then through the draft. And, for that, we could follow the money for the 49ers plan. What's going to happen moving forward? I wrote a lot about this in this salary cap analysis piece. I can copy and paste this into the comment section so everybody has an idea of what's coming up here on Wednesday. But the 49ers, currently, they've done 2 restructures, have $9.5 million in cap space, maybe 9.6. You have to remember that the 49ers 11-person draft class, it's not going to be expensive relative to other draft classes because they don't have a first or second round pick, but it's still going to cost against the 53-man cap $9.3 million to sign. So let's just follow the logical steps here. $9.6 million in cap space for the 49ers right now. Their draft class is going to cost $9.3 million. That means that, yes, they don't have to pay the draft class for another couple months until that actually happens, but they can finish up free agency with 55 players currently under contract, so 35 more still to sign. They could finish up free agency with some budget signings that's going to eat up some or all or most of that $9.6, $9.7 million in cap space. Then the 49ers are going to have to run another restructure to open up enough space to sign the draft class. So you got to be economically efficient with the free agents that you sign right now, and then you fill out the rest of the roster with the draft class, and you probably operate one more restructure, maybe somebody like Christian McCaffrey. What this doesn't mean is that the 49ers are going to sign some big-name free agent. I think that would be a massive swing that might put them into an area of financial unsustainability. I've always had contended this offseason that they'd have room for one big fish signing, and I think that one big fish signing was Javon Hargrave. They do need to add another edge rusher. They do need to add secondary depth, especially after losing Emmanuel Mosley and Jimmy Ward. They do need to still fortify the offensive line. That might be the most important task of all of them. But the 49ers won't be able to do that, in my opinion, looking at the numbers, with a massive splash signing. I think they're going to have to do it with cost-effective signings. The good news on the defensive line is they have Chris Kacerek as their coach. He's really good at developing cost-effective signings. In the secondary, Steve Wilks, their defensive coordinator, is a DB specialist. He should be good there. I think most of the focus should probably go to the offensive line if the 49ers are going to be paying for it. But whatever they don't handle here in free agency with the limited amount of money that they have, it's going to be important that the rookie scouting department comes through with the draft picks because they've got 11 of them in the 3rd round and beyond. And they're going to fill out the roster, and that's how the 49ers are going to have to do it with a limited amount of money. All right, so that should set the table for today. Everybody liked the video, sub to the channel. Wanted to give you a nice 10-minute video to set the table. Coming back with more soon, including the 49ers 5-step franchise building plan. I'll show you where on that 5-step plan they currently are because it's a cycle, 1 through 5. I tweeted it last night. We're going to talk about it in a video coming up. All right, everybody have a day. First day of the new league year. Take care. Talk to you soon.